They perceived her as an easy mark, a young woman of color piloting a high-end vehicle through a community where she didn't belong. Officer Brad Sterling, with a self-satisfied smirk, fastened the restraints onto her wrists, disregarding her composed protests and mocking her distress. He fancied himself the embodiment of authority, utterly beyond reproach. Yet, he neglected to ascertain the vehicle's rightful owner. He failed to scrutinize the surname on her driver's identification. He had no inkling that by apprehending Maya Vance, he was not merely awakening a slumbering force. He was initiating hostilities with the most formidable Delta Force commander the United States military had ever produced. And this conflict was now descending upon his doorstep. The sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the meticulously maintained lawns of Oak Haven, Virginia. It was the sort of locale where the grass appeared to have been manicured with rulers, and residents observed their surroundings from behind drawn lace curtains. Maya Vance, a 22-year-old student of medicine at Johns Hopkins, hummed along to the radio, her journey unfolding in her father's classic 1969 Chevrolet Chevelle SS. The automobile, a masterpiece of matte black steel and chrome, represented a restoration project she and her father, Silas, had completed the preceding summer. Its engine emitted a deep, resonant growl that commanded attention. But in Oak Haven, those turning heads did so with suspicion rather than admiration. Maya glanced at her speedometer, confirming she was adhering precisely to the posted speed limit of 25 miles per hour in a 25-mile-per-hour zone. She was acutely aware of the imperative to avoid providing any justification for interference. Her intention was merely to transit through, opting for the scenic route to the base housing near Fort Liberty, where she planned a surprise for her father's birthday. Suddenly, the dazzling illumination of blue and red lights erupted in her rearview mirror. Maya exhaled, a knot of apprehension tightening in her stomach. She activated her turn signal, guided the vehicle to a slow stop, and silenced the engine. Rolling down her window, she placed her hands at the 10 and 2 o'clock positions on the steering wheel and waited. She was intimately familiar with the procedure. Her father had ingrained it in her since she was 12 years old: compliance, respect, survival. In the side mirror, she observed the approaching officer. He was a large man, his buzz cut failing to conceal the thickness of his neck, his hand already resting on the holster of his Glock 17. His name tag identified him as Sterling. "License and registration," Sterling barked, his gaze not meeting hers. He surveyed the car's interior, his eyes lingering on her backpack positioned on the passenger seat. Quote, _1__, Maya responded, her voice steady despite her rapidly beating heart. Quote, _2__, Sterling scoffed. Quote, _3__, Maya moved deliberately, retrieving her wallet. She presented the plastic card and the registration documents. Sterling snatched them, examining the registration, then the car, and finally her. Quote, _4__, Sterling announced the name on the registration. Quote, _5___, quote, _6__, Maya explained politely. Quote, _7__, quote, _8__, Sterling leaned closer, his breath carrying the scent of stale coffee and chewing tobacco. Quote, _9___, quote, _10 quote, _11 Sterling guffawed, a harsh, grating sound. Quote, _12 Sterling's expression darkened. The mention of a warrant seemed to provoke him. In Oak Haven, his badge was sufficient authorization. "Step out of the vehicle now." "Officer, why am I being asked to exit the vehicle? I haven't committed any traffic infraction." "I smell marijuana," Sterling lied, the statement smooth, rehearsed, and effortless. "That's my probable cause. Get out or I'll drag you out." Maya understood the futility of arguing on the roadside. That was a path that often led to harm. She unbuckled her seatbelt and exited the car. The instant her feet touched the asphalt, Sterling seized her arm, spun her around, and thrust her against the warm metal of the car's hood. "Hey, that's hot," she yelped, as her cheek made contact with the sun-baked steel. "Stop resisting." Sterling bellowed, ostensibly for the benefit of his dash camera. Despite her immobility, he spread her legs apart and subjected her to an aggressive pat-down. Another patrol car arrived. "Everything all right, Brad?" inquired Deputy Clint, a younger officer whose demeanor suggested perpetual composure. "Got us a mule, Clint?" Sterling called out, wrenching Maya's wrists behind her back and tightening the handcuffs to the point of pinching her skin. Quote, 21, quote, 22, Maya pleaded, tears of frustration welling in her eyes. Quote, 23, Sterling paused, then erupted in laughter. He leaned close to her ear. Quote, 24, quote, 25, Maya whispered, her voice trembling yet imbued with a steely resolve. Quote, 26, Sterling shoved her toward his cruiser. Quote, 27, the journey to the Oak Haven precinct was silent, punctuated only by the crackle of the police radio. Maya sat awkwardly in the back, her wrists throbbing. She closed her eyes and began to mentally recite the anatomy of the human heart, attempting to keep her panic at bay. Right atrium, tricuspid valve, right ventricle. Upon their arrival at the station, Sterling roughly pulled her out. He did not escort her to the standard booking desk. Instead, he led her to a back interrogation room, a confined concrete space that exuded an odor of bleach and despair. He handcuffed her to the metal table. Quote, 28, Sterling ordered. The younger deputy tipped Maya's backpack onto the table. Textbooks, a stethoscope, a laptop, and a change of clothes tumbled out. Sterling sifted through the contents, a look of annoyance on his face. "Medical books," Clint muttered. "Maybe she is a student, Brad." "Shut up, Clint," Sterling snapped. "The car came back clean, registered to a Silas Vance in Fort Liberty." Of course, it came back clean. These high-level dealers have legitimate fronts. Sterling picked up Maya's phone. It was locked. Quote, 33, quote, 34, Maya stated firmly. Quote, 35, quote, 36, Sterling declared, pacing the room. He desperately needed leverage. He had reported this as a drug bust. If he came up empty-handed, the chief would reprimand him for the overtime expenses. He glanced at Clint, then at the camera mounted in the corner of the room. Reaching into his own utility belt, he discreetly retrieved a small, clear plastic bag containing a white, powdery substance reserved for special circumstances. Turning back to the table, he swept his hand over her textbooks, and the baggie appeared atop her anatomy and physiology book. Quote, 37, Sterling grinned, his eyes devoid of warmth, chillingly cold. Quote, 38, Maya gasped. Quote, 39, Sterling glanced up at the black dome in the corner. Quote, 40, quote, 41, Clint hesitated, his gaze shifting between the young woman trembling in her chair and his senior officer. He swallowed hard. Quote, 42, a cold pit opened in Maya's stomach. This had escalated far beyond a simple traffic stop. This was a deliberate setup. These men intended to dismantle her life, shatter her medical aspirations, and bury her under a felony charge, all to salvage their own inflated egos. Possession with intent to distribute, Sterling whistled. That carries a mandatory minimum sentence. You're looking at significant time, Maya. He leaned in close, his face mere inches from hers. Now, regarding that phone call, you can call your daddy, tell him to bring bail money, tell him to bring a lawyer, but don't you dare tell him to bring his Delta Force buddies. Or, he added, I'll add resisting arrest and assaulting an officer to your record. Do you understand? Maya stared at him, The fear was rapidly dissipating, supplanted by a frigid, consuming rage that she had directly inherited from her father. "I understand," she said quietly. "I understand that you have just made the most significant mistake of your life." Sterling laughed, unlocking her cuffs from the table and handing her the desk phone. "Make it quick. 2 minutes." Maya dialed the number she knew by heart. It rang once, twice. "Vance," a voice answered, deep and gravelly, the sound of a man who hadn't slept in 2 decades. Quote, _ 51, _. Maya's voice finally cracked. "Dad, it's me, Maya." The tone instantly transformed. The gravel hardened into granite. "Where are you?" "You were supposed to be here an hour ago." "I'm in Oak Haven, at the police station." "Dad, they arrested me. They planted drugs on me." A profound silence descended on the other end of the line. It was a terrifying silence, the silence of a predator spotting its quarry. "Who?" Silas inquired. A single word. "Officer Sterling, Brad Sterling. He hit me, Dad. He slammed me against the Chevelle. He said he didn't care who you were. Is he there? Can he hear you?" "Yes." "Put him on." Maya held the phone out to Sterling. "He wants to speak with you." Sterling smirked, snatching the receiver. "Mr. Vance, look, your daughter is in a considerable amount of trouble. We found a significant quantity of cocaine on her. Listen to me very carefully." Silas's voice emanated from the speaker, low and distorted, yet clear enough for Clint to discern from the doorway. Quote, _63, Sterling rolled his eyes. Quote, _64, quote, _65, Silas stated. Quote, _66, Sterling laughed and slammed the phone down. Quote, _67, he muttered. He looked at Maya. Quote, _68, He grabbed Maya by the arm and dragged her toward the holding cells. Quote, _69, As the cell door slammed shut with a resounding metallic clang. Maya sat on the thin mattress. She did not cry. She simply watched the clock on the wall. 10 minutes. She recalled him stating, "You had 10 minutes." 40 miles away, at a secure compound adjacent to Fort Liberty, Colonel Silas Vance placed his phone down on his desk. He did not raise his voice. He did not throw objects. He calmly depressed a button on his intercom. Quote, 70, Silas stated, his voice even. Quote, 71, quote, 72, the voice inquired. Silas stood, checking the load on his sidearm. Quote, 73, Colonel Silas Vance did not operate a minivan, nor did he drive a sedan. At the secure compound on the perimeter of Fort Liberty, the garage doors ascended to reveal a fleet of vehicles that did not officially exist on any civilian registry. These were blacked-out GMC Yukons, up-armored to withstand small arms fire and IEDs, typically deployed for diplomatic security in active war zones. Tonight, their destination was Oak Haven. Silas walked into the armory, his dress uniform shed in favor of tactical trousers and a fitted black shirt. He wore no rank insignia, yet it was unnecessary. The atmosphere in the room shifted the moment he entered. 5 men were already present, gearing up. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were the specters of Delta Force operators who had served in the planet's most perilous shadows: Syria, Afghanistan, Somalia. They were also the individuals who had taught Maya to ride a bicycle, master a compound bow, and perform an oil change on the Chevelle. To them, she was more than just a civilian. She was the unit's daughter. Quote, 74. Inquired Sergeant Major Thomas. Quote, 75, Reynolds, a man of imposing stature with a thick red beard and arms the size of tree trunks. He was zeroing the sights on a non-lethal pepperball launcher, though a standard carbine rested across his chest. Quote, quote underscore 76 underscore underscore Silas stated. His voice devoid of emotion, underscore underscore quote underscore 77 underscore underscore. The room fell into an absolute silence. The sounds of Velcro fastening and magazines being loaded ceased. Underscore underscore quote underscore 78 underscore underscore Elias underscore underscore quote underscore 79 underscore Thorn, a wiry, terrifyingly quiet sniper from Texas, asked, slamming her against the car, cuffing her. Framing her for possession underscore quote underscore 80 underscore. We are 40 minutes out. I want communications blackout on the Oak Haven precinct 5 minutes before our arrival. I do not want them contacting state troopers or the media until we have established control of the situation. Underscore quote underscore 81 underscore cyber warfare is already engaged. Underscore quote underscore 82 underscore ILM looping the station's camera feed. Boss, you need to see this underscore quote underscore 83 underscore they didn't turn it off, Jackson remarked, his voice laced with disdain. They simply disconnected the recording to the local server, but it's still streaming to the cloud backup. They're too inept to grasp the distinction. On the screen, Silas saw Maya. She was now seated in a holding cell, her knees drawn to her chest. She appeared vulnerable, but then the camera shifted to the front desk. Officer Sterling was laughing, reenacting the arrest for 2 other officers, miming how he had shoved her. Silas felt a vain throb in his temple. Roll out, fast movers. If anyone impedes our progress, you go through them. The convoy of 4 armored SUVs accelerated out of the compound, tires screeching on the asphalt. They merged onto the highway in a tight formation, maintaining 90 miles per hour, weaving through traffic with surgical precision. Meanwhile, inside the Oak Haven precinct, the atmosphere was jovial. Officer Brad Sterling felt a surge of satisfaction. He had just logged the evidence. 20 grams of cocaine, a felony quantity. It was sufficient to secure a conviction, seize the Chevelle under civil asset forfeiture laws, and potentially garner favor with the mayor, who was campaigning on a tough-on-crime platform. Chief of Police Gary Miller waddled out of his office, a half-eaten sandwich in hand. Miller, a man who had attained his position through nepotism and maintained it by turning a blind eye, inquired, "Good bust, Brad?" "Clean and easy, Chief," Sterling boasted, leaning back in his chair, his feet propped on the desk. "She looked like a thug driving a car worth more than my house. Had to bring her down a notch." "Who is she?" "Nobody. Said her dad was military, some colonel, probably a cook or a logistics guy pushing pencils." Sterling chuckled. "Claimed he was Delta Force." Chief Miller ceased chewing. He swallowed hard. "She said Delta Force." "Yeah, scare tactics, you know how it is." Miller frowned. "Brad, you checked the ID, right? What was the last name?" "Vance." "Maya Vance." Miller's face turned ashen. He walked over to his computer. Vance. He typed the name into the federal database, to which they had limited access. Maya's information yielded no results, but when he initiated a cross-reference for the father, the screen did not display a driver's license photograph. Instead, it presented a warning. "Access denied. Clearance level 5 required. Department of Defense." "Brad," Miller said, his voice trembling, "why is there a Department of Defense block on her father's file? Quote, underscore 99, probably a glitch. Quote, 100, systems have been acting up all day. Quote, 101, no comma, quote, 102, that quote is not a glitch. That's a ghost file. Quote, 103, what the hell? Quote, 104, dispatch. Do you copy? Static quote, 105, hey, comma, Clint, quote, 106, did we blow a fuse? Quote, 107, who are they? Feds? Underscore underscore, quote, underscore, 108 underscore, underscore, I don't know, Sterling replied, reaching for his gun belt. But they're on my property. Dot underscore underscore, quote, underscore, 110 underscore, Don, quote, T. Miller grabbed his hand. Look at them, you idiot. That's not the FBI dot underscore, quote, underscore, 112 underscore, that quote S him, Sterling whispered. A cold dread finally began to permeate his bones. That's the dad. Dot underscore, quote, underscore, 114 underscore. You said he was a pencil pusher, underscore, quote, underscore, 115 underscore. That man looks like he eats barbed wire for breakfast. Dot underscore, quote, underscore, 116 underscore, Dutch dot underscore, quote, underscore, 117 underscore, freeze exclamation mark underscore, quote, underscore, 118 underscore, get on the ground. Now dot underscore, quote, underscore, 119 underscore, I am commanding you to drop your weapon, underscore, quote, underscore, 120 underscore. This is a police station. You are under arrest. Dot underscore, quote, underscore, 121 underscore. Put the gun away, son. Underscore, quote, underscore, 122 underscore. Before you do something that guarantees you don't leave this building alive. I'm the law here. Underscore, quote, underscore, 124 underscore, not anymore. Underscore, quote, underscore, 125 underscore. You forfeited that right. When you framed my daughter, dot underscore, quote, underscore, 126 underscore. Brad, comma, put it down, underscore, quote, underscore, 127 underscore, for God's sake, put it down. Sterling hesitated, his ego at war with his instinct for self-preservation. He met Silas's gaze. There was no fear reflected there, only a deep, abyssal promise of violence. Slowly, Sterling lowered the gun. He tossed the object onto the ground, then gave it a forceful shove with his foot. Brilliant move, Silas remarked dryly. From his position against the wall, Clint blurted out, Where is she being held? Cell 2? He quickly added, She's all right. We haven't harmed her. Silas pointed directly at Clint. You. Get the keys. Bring her out, right now. Clint fumbled with the keys, the metal jingling as he scrambled for them before rushing towards the rear of the building. Sterling, his firearm confiscated, attempted to salvage some semblance of his former authority. He puffed out his chest. You can't just storm in here like this. This is domestic terrorism. I have you on camera. I have underscore, quote, underscore, 133 underscore. You have a compromised apartment. You have a fabricated narcotics charge, and you have the full, undivided attention of the 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta. Do you truly believe you're exempt from the law? Sterling scoffed, sweat beading on his upper lip. No, Silas replied softly. I uphold the law, the genuine law, the Constitution. The very one you trampled on when you targeted a young woman based on your personal dislike of her vehicle. Silas reached into his pocket. Sterling flinched, anticipating a weapon. Instead, Silas produced a tablet. Jackson, Silas commanded, play it. One of the operators activated a portable projector, casting an image onto the pristine white wall of the police station's lobby. It displayed the footage, the compromised camera feed. It showed Sterling inside the interrogation room. It showed him retrieving something from his waistband. It showed the small baggie appearing on the desk. It showed him chuckling about the act. The audio was remarkably clear. Sterling's face drained of color, becoming ashen. How? How did you get that when the server was offline? We are the United States military, Silas stated with a hint of sarcasm. We control the satellites that your internet relies upon. Did you honestly believe that erasing a local file would conceal your transgressions from both divine judgment and the NSA? Chief Miller slowly rose from behind his desk, his gaze locked onto the projected video. He watched his career disintegrate with each passing frame. Brad, Miller whispered, you said you found it in her bag. I did, Sterling stammered, a desperate lie. That video is fabricated. It's a deepfake dot underscore underscore quote underscore 145 underscore underscore. It quote S timestamped and hash coded, Silas informed him. It has already been dispatched to the FBI field office in Richmond, the Virginia State Attorney General's office, and several prominent news organizations. You're not just terminated, Sterling. You're going to be famous. Underscore underscore quote underscore 147 underscore underscore dad comma underscore underscore quote underscore 148 underscore underscore I quote V got you, baby girl, Silas murmured into her hair. I've got you. Underscore underscore quote underscore 150 underscore underscore. He said you wouldn't come. He said nobody cared. Silas pulled back, cupping her face in his hands. He noticed the bruise beginning to form on her cheek. His eyes hardened once more, turning back towards Sterling. Who struck her? Silas inquired. The room's temperature plummeted. Maya didn't need to articulate a response. She simply looked at Sterling. The officer was now retreating, bumping against the wall. She resisted, Silas clarified, his voice steely. It was standard procedure. A compliance strike. Silas handed Maya over to Dutch. Take her to the truck. Have the medic examine her wrists. Yes, sir, Dutch replied gently, guiding Maya away. Come on, kiddo. Let's get you out of this dump. Underscore quote underscore 157 underscore standard procedure underscore quote underscore 158 underscore. You seem to appreciate standard procedure, Officer Sterling. Underscore quote underscore 159 underscore stay back. Underscore quote underscore 160 underscore if you touch me, it's assault. No, Silas stated, stepping closer. Assault is what you did to a 22-year-old girl. What's about to happen is an education underscore quote underscore 163 underscore chief comma do something underscore quote underscore 164 underscore I'm sorry, Brad, Miller said, returning to his chair and picking up a pen. It seems I'm rather occupied filling out your termination papers. Underscore quote underscore 166 underscore stop resisting. Underscore quote underscore 167 underscore get off me. Underscore quote underscore 168 underscore I smell fear. Underscore quote underscore 169 underscore that's my probable cause. Silas stood, hauling Sterling up by the back of his tactical vest. He dragged him over to the chair where Maya had been fingerprinted. Sit, Silas commanded. Sterling complied, defeated, humiliated, and terrified. You have 10 minutes, Silas stated, glancing at the wall clock, to write a full confession. If you omit a single detail, the planting, the assault, I will hand that video over to the press, unredacted. If you confess, you'll go to federal prison, but perhaps, just perhaps, you might survive the general population. Underscore quote underscore 173 underscore the state troopers are here. 4 cruisers. Underscore quote underscore 174 underscore let them in. I want them to witness this. Underscore quote underscore 175 underscore I have orders to detain you. Underscore quote underscore 176 underscore captain comma underscore quote underscore 177 underscore. You may try. Underscore quote underscore 178 underscore colonel comma underscore quote underscore 179 underscore. I have the governor on the line. He's labeling this a military coup on domestic soil. You breached a police station. I secured a crime scene, Silas corrected, his voice calm. I possess evidence of felony corruption, kidnapping, and assault committed by this department. Under the Uniform Code of Military Justice and Federal Law, I acted to protect a United States citizen from imminent harm when local law enforcement failed. That's for a judge to determine. Underscore quote underscore 183 underscore right now. I need you to stand down. Your men need to vacate the premises. Underscore quote underscore 184 underscore. What in God's name is going on here? Julian boomed, striding through the shattered glass door as if he owned the establishment, which, in essence, he did. He glanced at Brad, bound and weeping. Then, he looked at Silas. "Unshackle my nephew immediately," Julian demanded, pointing a manicured finger at Silas. "Captain Henderson, arrest this man. This is terrorism. He's holding a police officer hostage. Quote underscore 187 underscore he quote s a suspect," Silas stated, positioning himself between the senator and his nephew. "And this is an active investigation," Julian scoffed. "Investigation? You're a soldier, Vance. You have no jurisdiction here. This is my town. These are my people. Quote underscore 190 underscore captain comma. I want Colonel Vance in cuffs now, or I will have your badge on my desk by morning dot. Quote underscore 191 underscore Colonel comma quote underscore 192 underscore. Please don't make this a bloodbath. Come with us to the county jail. We'll resolve this with the lawyers. Quote underscore 193 fine comma quote underscore 194 am I under arrest? Quote underscore 195 detained quote underscore 196 dad no quote underscore 197 you can't take him. He saved me. It's all right, Maya. Quote underscore 199 go with Dutch. Go to the safe house. Do not speak to anyone. Do not answer your phone. Quote underscore 200 but they'll hurt you, she sobbed. They can't hurt me. Quote underscore 202 they politicians. They don't know how to fight. Quote underscore 203 stand down quote underscore 204 return to base. Upload the files. All of them quote underscore 205 you imbecile quote underscore 206 I told you to be careful. I told you not to target anyone with connections. Quote underscore 207 I didn't know, Brad whimpered. She was just a girl. She had a nice car. Julian slapped him, the sharp crack silencing the room. You planted the cocaine, didn't you? The stash from the evidence locker. Quote underscore 210 I had to. I needed the arrest numbers. We have to bury this. Quote underscore 211 If that video gets out, it's not just you going down. It's the whole operation, the asset forfeiture fund, the kickbacks, everything. Quote underscore 212 He said he uploaded it. Quote underscore 213 get me the district attorney and the best cybersecurity team money can buy. We need to scrub the internet. We need to portray Silas Vance as a PTSD-ridden lunatic who attacked a hero cop. Quote underscore 214 breaking news. Chaos in Oak Haven. Quote underscore 215 a decorated Delta Force commander, Colonel Silas Vance, is in custody today following an armed siege of the Oak Haven Police Department. Senator Julian Sterling has released a statement calling Vance unhinged and a threat to democracy, claiming Vance attacked officers without provocation. Quote underscore 216 they quote recontrolling the narrative, he thought. Smart. The cell door buzzed open. A woman in a sharp navy suit entered, carrying a briefcase and an aura of undeniable authority. Colonel Vance, she stated, I am Eleanora Brooks. I'm your legal counsel. The JAG Corps assigned me, but my ultimate allegiance is to the White House. Quote quote, underscore 220 underscore underscore. Good to see you, Eleonora, underscore underscore, quote, underscore 221 underscore underscore. How dire is the situation? Underscore underscore quote underscore 222 underscore underscore. It's bad, Eleanor admitted. The senator is leveraging every connection. He's having the DA file charges for kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, and destruction of government property. He's attempting to have your security clearance revoked. He wants you buried in jail before the truth surfaces. And the video? Silas inquired. The senator obtained an emergency injunction. Eleanor sighed. He claimed it infringes upon officer privacy and contains classified police tactics. He's managed to block the news stations from airing the full unedited clip. He's suppressing the evidence. Silas walked to the bars. He believes he can fight a digital conflict with a paper injunction. He's winning, Silas. The public sees a soldier attacking police officers. They're unaware of Maya. They don't know about the drugs. Underscore underscore quote underscore 229 underscore underscore. Then we cease playing by their rules. Is Maya safe? Underscore underscore quote underscore 230 underscore underscore. She's at the compound. Viper is watching her. Good. Instruct Viper to initiate Protocol 0. Eleanor's eyes widened. Protocol 0? Silas, that's the nuclear option. That exposes everything, not just the video, but the senator's financial records, the police department's internal emails, everything. You'll devastate the entire town. They came for my daughter, Silas stated, his voice chilling and final. Burn it down. Senator Julian Sterling felt invincible in his office. The injunction had held, the media was spinning the story to his advantage, and Silas Vance was incarcerated. Brad was on paid administrative leave, recuperating at a lake house. Julian reached for his phone to contact the governor. We have it under control, Governor. Vance is finished. We'll offer him a plea deal, a dishonorable discharge, and 5 years probation. If he admits he snapped, underscore underscore, quote underscore 236 underscore underscore, Senator comma underscore underscore, quote underscore 237 underscore underscore. You need to look at Twitter or YouTube or underscore underscore, quote underscore 238 underscore underscore. I don't care about social media. Julian dismissed her. It's just noise. Underscore underscore quote underscore 240 underscore underscore. It quote s not noise, sir. It's trending worldwide. Julian frowned and turned to his computer. The hashtag #JusticeForMaya was the #1 trending topic globally. Protocol 0 had been executed. The Delta Force cyber team had not merely released the video to news outlets, they had unleashed a botnet swarm that simultaneously posted the raw, unedited footage across every major platform: YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, Instagram. Millions of views within an hour. Julian clicked on the first video. It was no longer just the interrogation room footage. It was a compilation. Clip 1, Brad Sterling planting the drugs. The audio enhanced to crystal clarity. Clip 2, dashcam footage from Sterling's own cruiser, which he believed was deleted. It showed him pulling Maya over, her protests, and him smiling as he said, "I smell marijuana." Clip 3, a recording of a phone call originating from Julian's own office. Julian's blood ran cold. The audio played through his computer speakers. We have to bury this. If that video gets out, it's not just you going down. It's the whole operation, the asset forfeiture fund, the kickbacks. How? Julian whispered. How did they get that? He had forgotten who he was dealing with. Silas Vance commanded operatives specializing in signals intelligence. They had tapped the senator's phone the moment the siege began. The video concluded with a stark black screen and white text. The police report is a lie. The senator is a co-conspirator. Silas Vance is a father protecting his child. The phone on Julian's desk rang. He ignored it. His cell phone rang. He ignored it. Then, the sound of chanting drifted through his window. He stood and looked out. A crowd was gathering on the lawn of the state capitol, hundreds of people holding signs reading, "Justice for Maya," and "Arrest Sterling." The door to his office slammed open again. This time, it wasn't his secretary, it was Captain Henderson, accompanied by 2 FBI agents in windbreakers. "Senator Sterling," the lead FBI agent stated, I'm Special Agent Ross. We have a federal warrant for your arrest. Quote, underscore 250, underscore, on what grounds? Quote, underscore 251, underscore. I am a state senator. Quote, underscore 252, underscore RICO charges. Quote, underscore 253, underscore racketeering, obstruction of justice, conspiracy to distribute narcotics, and deprivation of civil rights under color of law. We have your financials, Senator. We know about the offshore accounts where you were funneling the asset forfeiture money. Quote, underscore 254, underscore. You quote, letting them do this. Henderson regarded the senator with undisguised contempt. I watched the video, Julian. You framed a kid. You're finished. Underscore, quote, underscore 256, underscore, Colonel Vance, underscore, quote, underscore 257, underscore. The charges have been dropped, sir. All of them. The district attorney just resigned. Underscore, quote, underscore 258, underscore. You broke the internet, Silas. Underscore, quote, underscore 259, underscore. I merely told the truth. Underscore. Quote, underscore 260, underscore. Where is she? Underscore, quote, underscore 261, underscore outside. There's quite a crowd. Silas emerged from the jail into the blinding sunlight. The roar was deafening. Thousands of people had gathered. Reporters shouted questions and cameras flashed, but Silas's gaze settled on one person. Maya, standing by the curb, leaning against a matte black 1969 Chevrolet Chevelle SS. Dutch and Viper stood on either side of her, arms crossed, looking like proud uncles. Maya ran to him, colliding with him in a fierce hug. I saw the news, she cried. They arrested the senator. They arrested Brad again. It's over. Underscore, quote, underscore 265, underscore, let's go home. Colonel Vance, a CNN reporter, thrust a microphone in his face. Do you have a statement? You just took down a corrupt police department and a state senator in less than 24 hours. How do you feel? Silas paused. He looked directly at the camera, his eyes still conveying that dangerous, quiet intensity. I feel, Silas stated, that people should be very careful who they bully. You never know who is listening. He opened the passenger door of the Chevelle for Maya. Are you driving, Dad? She asked. Silas looked at the car, then at the crowd, then at the freedom of the open road. No. Silas tossed her the keys. It's your car. You drive underscore, quote, underscore 273, underscore, he, quote, S, in the rear office, Mia, she informed her. Mia entered the sheriff's private chambers. This used to be Chief Miller's domain, reeking of stale tobacco and cooking grease. Now it carried the scent of pine disinfectant and firearm lubricant. Dutch was seated at the desk, appearing disproportionately large for the furnishings. The former Delta Force operative had exchanged his ballistic vest for a khaki uniform, yet he still possessed an aura of formidable strength. Well, look who decided to grace us with their presence. Dutch beamed, his auburn beard quivering. Dr. Vance? Or perhaps just Maya today? Just Maya. She chuckled, placing the donuts atop his desk. I passed my accreditation exams, Dutch. I am officially a resident physician. I had no doubt you would succeed, Dutch remarked, reclining. Your father is incredibly proud. He can't stop talking about it. How is the town? Maya inquired, settling into the chair, the very same one she had been manacled to 6 months prior. Tranquil, Dutch replied. Uneventful. Precisely as I prefer it. We've outfitted every officer with body cameras, a strict non-tolerance policy for profiling. It turns out that when you treat individuals with dignity, criminal activity actually diminishes. Who would have imagined? Maya observed the wall where the damaged camera had once been affixed. At that moment, Dutch's demeanor grew serious. He opened a drawer and withdrew a newspaper clipping. Former senator receives a 25-year sentence. Disgraced Officer Sterling denied parole. Brad is incarcerated in a federal penitentiary in West Virginia. He's not experiencing pleasant conditions, Dutch stated. It appears the inmates hold no affection for corrupt officers who fabricate evidence. He spends the majority of his time in protective confinement, perpetually fearful, and Julian's RICO charges are still pending. The Federal Bureau confiscated his entire fortune: the estate, the overseas financial assets, the vehicles. He died destitute the instant the gavel fell. He will spend the remainder of his existence in a 6 by 8 foot cell contemplating his error. The mistake of underestimating a father, Dutch declared. Just then, the main entrance swung open and a familiar individual entered. Silas Vance. He was not in uniform, but rather attired in denim and a t-shirt, appearing a decade younger than he had during the confrontation. He had retired from active service shortly after the trial, concluding that his conflict had reached its end. "Ready for lunch?" Silas inquired, looking at his daughter. "Starving," Maya responded, rising to her feet. Silas glanced at Dutch. "Keep the town secure, Sheriff. Always on duty." Dutch gave a curt nod. As they exited toward the vehicle, Silas paused and looked at the exact spot where Brad Sterling had forcefully propelled Mia against the vehicle's hood. The memory lingered, but the sting had dissipated. It had been supplanted by a profound sense of ultimate vindication. "You know," Silas remarked, opening the car door for her, "I was contemplating that this vehicle could use a new paint job. Perhaps something more vibrant." Maya surveyed the matte black vehicle. It resembled a predator. It appeared like a formidable instrument. It mirrored her father. "No." Maya grinned, accelerating the engine until it unleashed a powerful roar. "I prefer it in black. It serves as a warning to those who might consider provoking me." Silas chuckled, entering the passenger compartment. "That's my girl." They departed Oak Haven, leaving the community in a superior state than they had found it. The oppressor was vanquished. The corrupt dominion had disintegrated, and the Vance family drove on unassailable, demonstrating that sometimes the most potent retribution arrives on 4 wheels. And that, in essence, is the remarkable account of how one corrupt law enforcement officer made the calamitous error of menacing the wrong family. It stands as a potent reminder that authority must never be weaponized, and that genuine fortitude is not defined by rank. The officer erroneously believed he could shatter a life due to a perceived sense of omnipotence, but he overlooked the universal truth that there is invariably a more formidable adversary. Maya and Silas Vance proved that when you confront injustice, equity will ultimately triumph. If you found this narrative of intense conflict, military retribution, and swift comeuppance engaging, please click the like button. It significantly aids the channel's expansion and informs us of your desire for further similar stories. Kindly share this video with your acquaintances who appreciate a well-deserved vengeance tale. And remember to subscribe and activate the notification bell to ensure you don't miss any new uploads. Thank you for viewing, and we anticipate seeing you in our next presentation.